Let's start this off with a bang. Welcome to How to Kill a Word, a series of videos that'll help you be a better communicator, a better marketer, and above all, a clearer thinker. Today we're continuing the series of how to explain technical things to non-technical people. So, how do you get 65,000 views of a video on plumbing safety? Well, it helps if you have explosions, especially the kind of explosions that come from air pressure testing PVC pipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this video up a little bit, then we're going to watch it, and I'm going to pull some things out that will help you in whatever you have to explain to make it entertaining and make it powerful, simple, all that great stuff. So my client, Charlotte Pipe, makes pipe, plastic pipe, PVC pipe, and cast iron pipe. And as a manufacturer, they're often the target of lawsuits that are a little, I don't know, they seem inappropriate to me. So like a plumber will buy some pipe, or general contractor will buy some pipe, and the plumber will install it and not follow the manufacturer's instructions and cause some damage to a building. Yet somehow the manufacturer, because they have a large base of assets to go after, winds up in the lawsuit. So that's one thing, but when it's an actual health and safety issue, when someone uses an improper test and they could be blinded or in some cases killed by this, that turns into a whole nother thing. So they wanted to do some videos to discourage this practice and remind everybody that, you know, it says on the pipe not for pressure, it says in their technical manual not to do it, it says in all the standards not to do it. So for training purposes and the general public, we made a series of videos, and this is sort of the keystone one.
The most important thing that you need to know about testing PVC pipe and fittings with air is not to ever, under any circumstances, do it. If you don't need to know why, feel free to skip the rest of this. Air is compressible, which means when you put it under pressure, it stores energy the exact same way a bomb does. And when it lets go, not only does air testing run the risk of damaging property, maiming, or even killing someone, it's a bad test, and for two reasons. One, let's say your pipe doesn't explode, but reveals a leak somewhere. Air pressure doesn't show you where, unless of course you put your head really close to a potentially explosive piece of pipe, and you happen to hear a leak. If you test with water, you have immediate visual confirmation of where your piping system needs repair. The second reason testing with air is a bad idea is a rise in ambient air temperature can mask a slow leak, and a drop in ambient air temperature can fail a leak-free system. It's not just that testing with air pressure is expressly prohibited by every manufacturer, every standard, and every code authority, it's not even a good test. On top of that, testing PVC with air can get somebody killed. So never, ever test a PVC piping system with air, or I'll find you.
So here's what you can learn from this video. Now, if you've watched the other videos in this series, you're probably sick of me saying start with the most important thing. But it's so important, I always like to start with it. But in this instance, there's a specific example of that and why it makes sense, which is don't make it difficult or make it easy for people to agree with you, right? So right off the bat, we start with the thing that we want to tell them. So if they agree with us, they could bail out, like if they know it already. But it frames what we're going to talk about. And even if they disagree, they have the context to see the argument, and it makes a lot more sense and is comprehensible faster to the viewer. You see this mistake a lot in recommendations. For example, if I was making recommendations for what you might do with your website, I would start with a punch list of things to do, or I would start with a wireframe of how it should look and how it should function. And then I would go into the rationale for it. What I wouldn't do is start with the World Wide Web, the greatest medium for communication, the most networked medium of communication mankind has ever known, was invented by Tim Berners-Lee in 1999. No. Because you don't need the argument. I don't even need argumentation about what's important for the way to use it. I don't even need to build a business case at the beginning, because there is a chance that you might just agree with me and you can say yes. So don't make it hard for someone to agree with you, and don't hide what you're advocating. People do this because sometimes when you make a recommendation, you feel a little nervous and you feel like you have to justify it up front. I say always start with the ask, because there's a good chance that they may just agree with you. This is especially true if you have to work with or talk to anybody in C-suite positions, because they have no time or no tolerance for beating around the bush. Even if they're nice and personable people, they're just out of time. So they might take some of their time to have a nice human moment with you, but in terms of the pressures of their jobs and the amount of information they have to process, just get right to it. So the next thing to know about this video is it's actually pretty strategic. We put this under pressure testing PVC with air. Now, I wouldn't have thought there would have been as many people who would have viewed that. Like, it would have been great if it was, 12,000 people who had viewed this. I didn't think there would be that many searching them if they were the 12,000 people who were most likely to blow themselves up with air pressure testing, right? That's a huge win, but it's 65,000 people. I mean, who knew? The third thing to get out of this video is explanation as persuasion. A bit later in the year, I'm going to do a series of videos on persuasion and dive very deeply into that. But the thing to know and the thing to think about is the best way to persuade somebody, to truly persuade somebody. There's a really great way to do it that stems from what's called the classic style. And what it is I assume that you are as smart or smarter than I am. This is the fundamental assumption I use in these videos, right? You're a very intelligent person. You just might not know what I know about writing and communication. So what I do is I show you what I've seen. I can do it in writing, I can do it in video, but I show you the things that I've seen that lead me to have the conclusions and believe the things that I believe. And I trust that you will come to the same conclusions as well. I'm not trying to spin it. I'm not trying to snow anybody. I'm just trying to tell the truth of my informed experience. So one way you see that in the video is not only are we saying that air pressure testing is bad, but we're showing them how water pressure testing is a better test to find a leak and help them get their job done. And we're physically showing it to them. On a side note, this guy is not an actor, but he is a tremendously good sport. To get this shot, because he couldn't quite pull it off, I actually sat outside the frame with a 3-foot piece of pipe, and I would just sort of smack him in the head a little bit every so often. He got to the point where he was so shell-shocked by this, every time I would move, he would flinch a little bit. So the fear is real, and Brian is an absolute champ for being up for it, man. He's great. If you're watching this video, man, Brian, good job. Taking one for the team. So to sum up, start with the most important thing. Don't make it hard for someone to agree with you. Second, recognize that explanation is very often very persuasive, and technical explanation is often persuading somebody to do something or making a case. And third, and this is a moral from an earlier video, and third, nothing has to suck. If someone gives you their attention, you have to reward them by being entertaining and informational and not wasting their time. You literally have a responsibility in today's environment to make it entertaining, or at least to make it as painless as possible. If you've got something to explain, I highly recommend downloading my free PDF companion to these videos, How to Explain Technical Things to Non-Technical People. And if you have to write something or really have to, craft something with words, I also have a free 5-video writing course that'll get you squared away so you're as good and as efficient as you can be in a minimum amount of time. Links to both of those are in the descriptions, and that's really all I have to say. So until next time. I seem to have an issue with my piping.